That's some contraption that guy's got going here. Hopefully the Panthers can do that with the receiver core because... Anyways, though, yeah, it's Panthers Day. We're almost done. We want to see the Black Panthers, though, because if we see the Florida Panthers, they're extinct. The hockey team's basically extinct, too. My God, they were bad last year. Yeah, we're aiming for Black Panthers here. And with that, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the NFL. Please like and subscribe. Hope y'all are ready for this Carolina Panthers 2026 roster. We are down to our final two teams. Again, if you're a Panthers fan, you've been waiting all offseason for this. Thank you for your patience. It's even longer than I thought it was going to be. Something came up last night. Nothing serious, but, so this didn't come out, again, really the time I wanted it to. But still, we're getting this sucker out as early as I possibly can. And, yeah, we'll get into this. Obviously, if you have not watched past the roster grades, go all the way back to the Jaguars one, which is the first one we did way back in May. Absolutely insane to think about that. But first timestamp will tell you all you guys need to know about that after the intro. And, again, on top of that, we obviously go through quarterback, then the rest of this offense. Again, really just overall, just looking at this Panthers team, how they went last year, 8-9. Of course, still good enough to win that division. NFC South is an absolute travesty. But, yes, we'll get into Bryce Young, my MVP pick for this year. I usually don't do MVP predictions. Well, I technically do like a not so organized one at the end of the prediction video, which comes out the day before NFL kickoff this year, which is kind of crazy because it's on a Wednesday. So, yeah. I'm going to have to figure that out. But, yeah, that's usually when it comes out, so be ready for that. But, anyways, quarterback position here for the Panthers. We'll get to Bryce Young in a second. There's some interesting backups here. First off, Kyle Trask is not going to make the team. He was absolutely horrid in that game against the Bills. He went 53 yards, 6 of 9. Yeah, he didn't even take a sack. He was just bad. I'm not going to lie. On tape, he wasn't very good. The interception, yeah, that was, I guess, the big thing people would talk about. But, I mean, in like, what? 15 snaps, no, he's getting cut, guys. Then you have Haynes King, who I really think should be pushing for a backup spot here. Not because he's actually a good passer, because he's still not really that, but he runs his offense so effectively for a UDFA. It's not really about like him actually like what he knows in the offense. He's still getting used to that. It's just really confidence. I don't want to compare him to Baker Mayfield when he was on the Rams back in 2022 when he obviously made the insane comeback versus the Raiders. That's kind of what he looked like on that Hall of Fame game. And the fact that, again, he's a guy that is a old-ass veteran at 25. I mean, guys, like, for 2001. Like, this is a dude that, he knows what's going on. And he obviously has a tremendous ability to scramble. Obviously isn't like the most athletic dude, but still figures it out. And while as a passer, I think he's highly limited. He still has this like high enough processing ability and, again, high enough awareness overall to, I think, make some of these throws that a lot of other scouts really weren't crediting him to be able to do. So hats off to him. I think he should be pushing to be their backup at some point. Odds Kenny Pickett's going to be in there. He's been established for a while. You literally look at Kenny Pickett, though. Obviously, he's kind of a meme at this point. Had a subpar rookie season in a lot of ways. Still wasn't, again, completely awful. You're just not going to write him off after 1 year. He was awful in 2023, and that offense didn't move the football when he was on the field. It's just a complete, like, non-threat. Back up for the Eagles in 2024, really didn't get on the field a lot. Last year with the Raiders, he started 2 games. Honestly, wasn't too awful, but, I mean, the game against the Eagles was something, too. So, against his former team, I guess. But, yeah, he's a backup quarterback. There's really nothing much else to say. He does provide you some mobility there. He's pretty accurate underneath, but in terms of actually throwing the ball down the field or having any sort of awareness in the pocket, it's non-existent. Odds to starters me Bryce Young, who had a big step-up season last year, got over 3,000 yards for the first time in his career. Still wasn't particularly awesome, but there were definitely some really high moments for him, similar to what we saw in 2024 towards the end of the year, but again, actual team success as well. But there's also, again, you look at his game log last year, there were definitely some games where he was absolutely awful. The Seahawks game, it was brutal. Partly the weather, partly his receivers didn't get open, but he was awful in that game. But again, both games against the Bucs, he played particularly well. I think the Week 18 game, there were definitely some points where I think he wasn't as aggressive as I think he was in earlier points, probably because he did trust that defense, which I think is a good thing there. And you just really look at some of these earlier games. Like, the Niners game, he was really bad. And this game, this is his worst game of the season. The Saints game in, Week 10? That game was awful, too. So there were just some games where he was, like, simply, like, unplayable in a lot of ways. And again, they, I guess, made up for it sometimes. Like, he was really good in that playoff game. But again, you just look at Bryce Young as a guy who's kind of I wouldn't say a very high, but there's a lot of potential there. But at the same time, you just see some games where he's just absolutely shut down. And again, there are times, like I said, he torched that Rams defense. There's no other way around it. Like, he completely picked them apart. So you got to give him credit there. But Bryce Young's a guy that I think at times could be a really hard guy to watch for your team. And I think it's just that potential for that to happen in terms of the floor being that low. It's just kind of hard to deal with. For me, I'm still going to give him a C+ because there is a ceiling there that I think, again, is pretty damn high. It's just the fact that, again, like I said, there's a lot of just inconsistency there, and until that really changes up, it's kind of see him being a reliable quarterback. But there's a lot of teams that would need a guy like him who again can just basically uplift the offense at times. Still, though, he can't really do a ton, again, if these skill positions aren't, doing their thing. All right, guys, let's look at the running back position first here as we get into the skill position group here for the Panthers. This is a group that is definitely highly contentious in terms of what's going on. You legitimately have 4 guys here that have either been starters in the past or have starting talent. First off, A.J. Dillon here, who I guess is still on the roster. He was not good last. He didn't even play. What the hell? He didn't get a carry last week, which is kind of bizarre. But yeah, A.J. Dillon, really the way to categorize his career is like he went like this and then like teetered out for a little bit and then But you look at A.J. Dillon, he obviously had a really fun rookie season. Again, I'm not going to go too deep into the rabbit hole here, but that game against the Titans in week on that Sunday nighter to clinch the 1 seed or something like that back in 2020, that was one of the better games I've seen from a young running back. He was really good at cutting through the holes in that game. Other than that, though, again, you look at 2021, I think he was really solid as well. Not quite as promising, but still really good. 2022 numbers-wise was okay, but really didn't impress me at all. He was awful in 2023 though, and then he didn't play at all in 2024 with the injury, and really again the field the Eagles. Biggest problem with him is that he's not a reliable enough guy in terms of just efficiency to consistently hand the ball off to. And while he's a pretty decent receiver overall, he's got solid hands. He really doesn't have the explosiveness to honestly trust him, and his pass protection's a little bit spotty, despite that supposedly being one of the better parts of his game. And nonetheless, he's by far the worst runner out of these 4. Then you have Trevor Etienne. Trevor Etienne, yes, only 20 carries last year. He's a guy that's going to kind of be in this gadget sort of role. Obviously, as a returner, that is where he is going to be most featured on this offense. There's really no other way around it. Still, though, I would like to see him get a couple more carries here because he does have really good instincts in the backfield, and his vision, I think, is better than even Chuba Hubbard at times. Last year, the problem was he wasn't really physical enough as a blocker to kind of, justify putting in the field there, and he's a solid receiving back. But as a runner as well, there weren't really a lot of plays where he consistently was able to break through the first layer of the defense. Until that really happens, obviously, some of that's on the offensive line, but not a lot with when he was going because, again, they were giving him solid holes. I just need to see a little bit more of a burst out of Trevor Etienne to really think that he can, consistently be in the field. Then you have Jonathan Brooks, who I think is by far the most talented back in this offense. This is a dude that legitimately just hasn't played at all in his career. He was, in my opinion, the best back coming out of the draft back in 2024. Obviously, you talk all you want about what is called Bijan the year before, but Jonathan Brooks is a legitimately very talented back. His senior year technically his junior year there at Texas, he was popping off like a 10-yard run like it was nothing. And there were just a lot of plays out of shotgun, really, where he was able to work a lot of different things, and just the versatility there is very hard to find. Again, like I said, he didn't play as all as a rookie. He even screwed up his ACL so bad last year. I hope he can have his healthy season this year. I think he had another injury or something. I don't even know. But yeah, Jonathan Brooks, when he's on the field, is a really good player. He legitimately could be the best player in this offense other than Ted McMillan very soon. Then you have Chuba Hubbard, who is a guy that is coming off a rough season after, again, a career 2024 season where even then he's still not a guy that you categorize as explosive. Another guy at Texas, he's got Oklahoma State. I forgot about that. But he's not a guy who you can consistently trust to be able to find that, I don't say second level. He doesn't really like the B gap for whatever reason. There's a lot of runs where, again, he can take that hole and he just doesn't find it because I think he's worried about having to adjust, again, his, the way he's going to run uphill against these linebackers who are trying to cut off blocks. Still, though, you look at him as a receiving back, I think there's definitely some merit there. Just with, again, how you can work him out of the backfield. But, again, as a runner last year, he was awful. There's no other way around it. He got completely outplayed by Rico Dowdle, who I don't think you should be getting, outplayed by, and he's also, again, not really the most explosive back. So until Chuba Hubbard can be a little bit more threatening, again, I don't really see how you play him more than 50% of the snaps here in terms of the carry share there, or not the target share, the load there. Holy crap. All right, for me, this running back room is kind of unproven. I'm going to give them a C+. That might be a little bit low or a little bit high for some people. It's not reliable in my opinion. Yeah, we'll give it a C. Jonathan Brooks hasn't played in his career yet. He legitimately hasn't played. I love this dude a lot. I think he's going to be awesome. But, he hasn't played. Chuba Hubbard was awful last year. Trevor Etienne's not a starting caliber back. It's just not a great situation to be in. That's why I'll give them a C. I like what's going on with Jonathan Brooks. I think he's looked awesome in camp. He looks like he's back. But I need to see this guy play more than 5 games before he shatters his ankle again. It's just something that I'm not really comfortable with the injury so far. And again, I'll be too careful. But I'm going to say a C here. It's just there's no reliability there. Now move to receiver. This receiving core is shit. That's just my personal. But this is not a good receiving core. I don't like it. But Ted McMillan is a borderline top 20 receiver in football right now. When it comes to creating separation at the top of the route, I think he is a top 10 receiver in football right now. His release package is still a little bit spotty at times. He's not a guy that's going to consistently be able to stack in corners. That's got to change for him to be this true alpha on this offense. Still, though, the way his route tree advanced throughout the season, the way, especially in his underneath routes, he could consistently improve timing with Bryce Young. It was tremendous, and I think that needs to be shouted out there. Ted McMillan was way more advanced than really any rookie receiver that I've seen in a while. Again, what he does at the top of the route is just it's hard to find. But the problem is he's not as agile or as like explosive. I think he really can be. And until that really happens, kind of like for me to be like, this dude is elite. But he was pretty damn good last year, and he's obviously a number one receiver. Then you have Jalen Coker, he's probably the second best receiver on this roster. Last year, he definitely struggled with some injury. I think he was not as good as he was in 2024, but in terms of being able to win on the outside, even as an X, he was actually pretty solid. This guy has a very powerful release, despite having a little bit of a hitch. Jeez, what a stutter. In his second step, it's definitely improved a lot, and I think him being a little bit more of a possession guy underneath it definitely raises the floor of his game. He should have another good season, but the fact that his route tree is definitely limited in terms of him not really being able to run, intricate in routes is something that definitely to watch out for. But Jalen Coker is definitely the second best receiver on this team. Am I comfortable with him as a number 2 receiver? Not really, but he's there. Then you have Xavier Legette, who's an absolute chud. This is a guy that I thought coming out of the draft could be a legitimate number 1 receiver, but that just simply hasn't happened. He struggled a lot with drops. His separation rate has plummeted since like the first 3 games of his career. And also, this is just not a guy that consistently has the motor, I think, to work corners. Because there's certain plays where you're not going to get open. I don't think he really grasps that. And I think him not really adjusting certain routes like at all throughout even the season is like an issue. Like that's got to get better. Like you look at those two Saints games, there was really no difference in what he was trying to do against Alontae Taylor, and that was part of the reason he struggled. Still though, this is a guy in Xavier Legette that is a talented player. It's just he hasn't really adjusted to the NFL yet, and until that happens, it's kind of hard to see him being anything worth what he was drafted there. Then you have Jimmy Horn here, who obviously dropped their last pass of the season from Bryce Young. He just simply he's a very stiff runner. That's not the worst thing though, because he definitely can climb up the field really well. He can, like I said, he can get going. But his hands are a little stiff for me, and I don't think his coordination overall is quite there yet. Again, there's definitely something to work with here. I just don't think Jimmy Horn at the moment is a guy that I want to see on the field too often. Then you have John Mechie, definitely a possession receiver. Last year with the Eagles and Jets, he wasn't awful. Obviously with the Jets, he was literally the only guy that could catch a pass towards the end of the season. He's not a guy that can create a ton of separation. Obviously, he's had some major injuries since leaving Bama a couple years ago. Also, it's a really big thing to note with this guy is that he's a slow receiver. He's not a guy that's going to threaten you over the top really whatsoever. But also the fact that he can be a little bit of a slot option, I think will be a little. Will show some versatility here. But he definitely had a strong run last year in New York. Then you have David Moore. This is a guy that I think should get on the field at least a little bit more. He is not a very versatile route runner. He maybe can run one decent. What is it called? You get a flag route here and there, but at the same time, he's not a guy that I want to run anything else other than that in a corner, because when he gets stiff on post, it's just not really the greatest thing. There's definitely potential with David Moore, but this is a guy that really hasn't been a consistent, honestly, contributor in a long time. Like, he's 31 now. He's obviously a solid special teamer, but, as a true receiver, it's what are we doing here? You also have, Bryson Tremaine. This is a guy that played a little last year. He's a bum. I'm just not going to lie to y'all. He's just not something that really threatens any defense. This receiving core for me is just so frustrating. I'm going to give them a C. Again, as good as Ted McMillan is, it's just I just don't like the vibes of this group. It's just you have one guy there, you have a decent, wide receiver in Jalen Coker, and then a bunch of It's just not a group that I'd be really comfortable with. Then you have the tight end position, which really hasn't been solved at all. Tommy Tremble is still not a guy that can consistently run a crosser, and until that happens, you really can't expect this guy to be very good. He's athletic enough, though, as a blocker, and I guess as a red zone threat to kind of keep on the field. But he's just not really that smart. That's just the best way I can put it. He is not a smart football player. But it's just I struggle with this guy because he's just not really that good. He's not a great football player. Then you have Darren Waller here, as casual as that sounds. Darren Waller did catch 6 touchdowns last year. He's by far the most proven receiving tight end on this team. He was actually not too bad with the Giants in 2023, despite barely be able to run some games. I like what he did with the Dolphins last year. He'll basically just get in there in the red zone and make some plays, I guess. He can't really block at this point in his career. We'll see how they use him, but it'll be in a very reduced role. Then you have Mitchell Evans, who was honestly kind of frustrating last year. He didn't really get open, at all. But he was decent on certain over routes, and there were definitely some times, especially in terms of off-play action, where he was effective. But he needs to be able to establish kind of more physical run blocking presence to really think that could be successful. And then Jatavion Sanders, get out of my face. This is a guy that just doesn't catch the ball at all consistently, and he can't run a route over 5 yards without messing something up. So until I see any sort of actual improvement there, I don't even know if he'll make the roster. This tight end position for me is not something I like at all. I'm going to say a D+. It's just not a good group. Tommy Tremble is not a bad player. It's just like he's not a starting caliber tight end until, again, this is a Panthers team that essentially, Gary Ellison, they've struggled to find a true proven starter, and that really hasn't changed. So, like, I got to keep him at, like, a low grade just because of that. But now let's move to this offensive line. All right, guys, as we need towards looking at this overall grade, this is a Panthers offensive line that is definitely in a little bit of a, I'd probably say he's in flux right now. Obviously, Ken Mukwano coming into a contract year this year after kind of a disappointing 2025 season. He's a really good run blocker overall. He's definitely a little undisciplined, but still overall really solid run blocker. It's just the fact that in pass blocking, he's way too inconsistent, does not consistently see off the edge to really see him as a guy that could project to start 5 or 6 more years in the future. Again, you look at him coming out of the draft, this was kind of the floor you were expecting until he really gets to a point where he's consistently being able to see off that edge. I don't trust him as a starting left tackle. He also is a very soft player at times, which is kind of bizarre with him being such an aggressive guy on tape in terms of run blocking. It's just it's a weird dynamic there. He needs to keep developing that confidence and that technique though, because if he doesn't, there's a guy right here waiting to steal his job, and that is Monroe Freeling, who is my tackle one coming out of this year's draft, 19th overall, taken by the Panthers out of Georgia. He is an athletic freak here. Is he like Amarius Mims level? Not really, but he's still there. He has tremendous power as a run blocker. Really, really good at setting the edge. Pass blocking, while his first the way he receives the first punch isn't awesome. I think there are times where he does kind of get out of step. The way he anchors is second to none in this year's class, and I think that if he can continue to kind of build off of that ability, it'll make it a lot easier for him to adjust to maybe some of these more complex rushes he'll be facing. You also Rasheed Walker, he was a starter in Green Bay. He's completely fallen off a cliff. After really over, like, I don't even know what happened. Yeah, obviously the injuries, but like Rasheed Walker stats, like again, it's very like confuzzling what happened with them. But again, you look at this. I've started almost every game last year. He was solid in 2024, I can tell you that. Last year on tape, I didn't see that many issues, to be completely honest with you. I really think, though, is the fact that he has never even been remotely a average like contributor as a run blocker. Well, he doesn't make a ton of mistakes. He's just not a guy that can consistently open holes for you. And as an offense, this severely limits you. Still, in terms of pass blocking, like, he's not a bad guy to have. I think he'll definitely be able to move into that fourth tackle spot really in no time. And he's also got, both those guys have gotten some starting snaps recently. Then you have Taylor Moton, who obviously has been dealing with an illness over the past couple days, I guess. Oh, what the hell? That's not good. He might not even play this year. Taylor Moton's 32 now. He's a very athletic player, very, very agile in terms of as a run blocker. That's really been his bread and butter really ever since he was in the league. He's definitely gotten a little worse. Obviously, that 2023 season was hell for him. He played awful, but he's gotten, I think, better and better over the past few years. Kind of recovery for him. Again, as a pass blocker, he's never been the most consistent, but I really compare him to a guy like another run blocker in Terrence Steele. You look at the Cowboys right tackle, and he is a much better pass blocker on tape. So at least you can think about that as a Panthers fan. They have Damon Lewis at left guard, who seemingly can't stay healthy with this team. They gave him a solid contract 2 off seasons ago, and he is, I guess, somewhat worked out here. He's just a hard guy to really gauge because, again, the athleticism kind of hasn't shown up with them yet. That's kind of a major part of his game, but still his technique has gotten tremendously better really every single year of his career, so that's good. Chandler Zavala is behind him. This is a guy that struggled mightily his rookie year when he actually got to play. He gets just completely dogged against these bull rushes. Still, though, he does do a decent enough job against these twitchier guys on the inside, so at least there's something there. Luke Forner is their center. He's not a guy that I'm completely comfortable with. I think Sam Heck is a better player, but he's definitely a better run blocker. Or not better. He's a more aggressive run blocker at the moment, which I think is a reason to play him because you do need that sort of aggression there in terms of what they're going to see out of the run game this year. Robert Hunt's next to him. He got a massive contract, and he played completely towards it last year. Some injury issues for sure, but we just talk about just straight up talented guys that are just so athletic, and it's very, very hard to beat, get out of their grasp. He is the prototypical right guard there, and he's one of the better pass blockers in football there. You have Brady Christensen, who is consistently getting beat in practice, yes, but on tape, I mean, I guess he's not that bad, so, like, there's that. For me, this offensive line has a lot of questions and I guess a lot of talent at the same time. I'm going to give them a B-. I think it's a really solid group. It's just the fact that you just don't get a lot of consistency out of them, similar to Bryce Young. But if we did that and if we added up all these points, it's going to be 30 and 25 and 25 and 6 and 14. That's going to give them 100 points for this offense, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah. 100 points is going to put this offense in the C+ here, which is, I think, where they belong. There's really not a bunch to complain about with this offense, but there's also a lot of stuff that you're kind of questioning. First off, the skill position group is not really that frightening other than Tet McMillan, I guess Jonathan Brooks. And, again, Bryce Young is a little too inconsistent at times, and you have an offensive line that is kind of in flux right now, which is a little bit of an issue. But just off of pure talent, there's definitely something here, which I think is a good thing. It's just the fact that this is a Panthers offense that hasn't really gotten much better at all this offseason. So it's like, how much can you really expect this offense to be more consistent than they were last year? Because they want to be able to win this division again or even be competitive in terms of like the playoff race. place, that's got to be a lot more of a, consistent offense than what we saw last year. All right, guys, now we're diving into the front seven as we get through this 3-4 group here on the defensive side of the ball for the Panthers, and they obviously made some major moves on this side of the ball to get better, and I think that they were, at least to a certain extent, were worth it. We'll start with the linebackers, which obviously got a big addition. Then we will talk about the D-line and obviously the edge rushers after that. All right, this linebacking core, I'm very excited to go through. Devin Lloyd last year, while he did have 5 picks, was, I think, overall worse than 2024. And it's really for one reason only. He was not consistently plugging up gaps as a run defender. That's not saying he was, again, his gap control was bad. There were a lot of plays where the runner was able to get an extra yard or so because he wasn't really consistently getting to his gap. On top of that, there were a lot of plays where in terms of his eye discipline, which has been questioned in the past, was an issue. Still, though, he's a dynamic and playmaking linebacker. There's no way around that. I think he is a big signing for that reason only. But in terms of a consistent guy that's going to be able to, be a guy to help your run fitting integrity, which has been a huge issue for them in the past. Really, just look back to 2024. Again, it's not really the wisest signing in that facet. Still, though, in terms of this identity, he will definitely be their playmaking guy there. Then you have Trevin Wallace, who I think did a good job in coverage last year. There were a lot of plays where he had to stick to guys and basically just kind of plug up what's going on. He did a good job with that. Really good at preventing these big yardage runs as well. He's a solid player in the open field. But we're talking about a guy that's able to blitz and kind of be a little more physical during near the line of scrimmage. That's not much more of his MO, and I think that needs to improve at least a little bit in terms of taking on these blocks to actually see him be a little bit more of a presence in this defense. Still, though, he's a very valuable piece for them. Then you have Bam Martin-Scott out of South Carolina, who's going to his second season. He was okay last year. I think he's a solid tackler. He just doesn't do enough for me in terms of shooting up run gaps. Not exactly, a little different than Devin Lloyd. He just doesn't really, he's not as aggressive I think that he can be because he is a instinctive player. Claudin Sherless, this guy's been on the team for a while. Solid special teamer in really a lot of regards. The problem with him is that he's not really playable in coverage until that really changes. I can't expect him to be a big time contributor for them despite being a solid guy in coverage. You have just in zone at least. Isaiah Simmons. This guy's been around the block, we'll just say that. I don't even know what to say, but Isaiah Simmons has not been a consistent pro in his entire career, and he hasn't consistently played since honestly 2023. I'm so done with Isaiah Simmons, guys. What a bust. Is he a complete bust? No, but it just has not worked out. All right, linebacker for me, I'm gonna give them a B-. I like what's going on here. It's just the depth is a little bit weird, and it's a weird fit with Devin Lloyd for sure. 21 points though. Now we move into this D-line. It's a really good group. Derek Brown is one of the better run defenders you'll really see every year. I had a career 5 sacks last year. Definitely was a lot more dynamic as a pass rusher. Really, just his bull rush became a lot more. There's a lot more juice to it than we're used to seeing. Obviously, 2023 still a solid enough pass rusher, but there was really nothing going off the bull rush, which kind of stalled that. So, again, the fact that he had, I guess, a little bit more of a finesse variation, it wasn't anything fancy, on top of, again, being a more, there was more burst in his bull rush. There's a huge difference in his pass rush efficiency. Obviously, 73 tackles is a high number for a defensive lineman. Again, that's a very, casual way of looking at it, but yes, on tape, he was consistently shredding blocks. Elijah Garcia behind him. Get out of my face. This guy's awful. There's plenty of plays where he's getting absolutely slammed. Then you have Bobby Brown. He's not really that great of a player. He's really just been a guy that's been kind of just a waste of space, like molasses as a run defender. He's good enough in terms of being able to adjust certain blockers that makes it harder for those guys to kind of move up field. But he's not a guy that's really going to do a ton for me. Lee Hunter's definitely a lot higher ceiling. While he's, 24, he's much more of an aggressive run defender. He can actually shred blocks a lot better. And not just shred blocks. And he does a really good job at isolating double teams and being the guy that can kind of take those on and make it hard for the running back to kind of move through the outside shoulder of those tackles. And also as a pass rusher, while he doesn't really give you a ton, there's at least some sort of profile there, which is, again, a lot better than Bobby Brown. Then you have Torshawn Wharton, who's supposed to be their best pass rusher. Last year, though, struggled big time with injury. Only played 9 games, and the pressure rate went down a lot. I think that was also a product of the fact that he was having to make a lot more plays just overall than what we saw in 2024. But as a true 3-tech, he has had to kind of adjust his overall game plan as a pass rusher, because there's a lot of plays where he isn't able to use that scissor move consistently. He has to be able to use kind of a little bit more speed. So until I really see him make that full adjustment, I'm not really truly buying in on him being their number one guy in the interior, obviously, other than Derek Brown. But we'll see what happens. You have Jared Harrison. This guy's another chud. I haven't really watched a lot of his tape. I think I maybe watched 5 of his preseason snaps last week. He really didn't do a ton for me. They really have one guy in Lee Hunter that I like a lot, and it's kind of what's going on. For me, this D-line's going to get a B. You could push in a B+. I just don't think Bobby Dunn does it for me. There's solid depth, though, and I really like what's going on with Torshawn Warren, again, in terms of the ceiling. So we're going to say 16 points for the D-line. For a lot of people, that might be a little bit low, but Warren struggled with injury last year. We'll give it. We'll stick with a B. Obviously, Derek Brown's a really freaking good player. But is he truly elite? it's a hard thing to really think. No, he is. Well, I'll say a B. I'm struggling. I'm sticking with the B plus for now. I'm gonna hold my whims there. All right, edge rushing group. Last year was a big question mark, but they figured it out, I guess, somewhat this offseason. Patrick Jones is obviously going to be their primary speed rusher on the other side of Jalen Phillips. Last year, he just didn't really play. He had a really good 3-year stretch with the Vikings where he had one of the more reliable pass rush, game plans in football. He's not particularly a good run defender, though. Really, really good at being able to beat guys just straight off with his bend, which I think is a really good starting point for him. Well, his power really hasn't developed quite yet. His lateral counters are really, really good, so we'll see if he can kind of build off that and actually have some threat as a power rusher. And you obviously Jalen Phillips on the other side, who has not been able to consistently stay out throughout his career. Not really too surprising with the Dolphins with the 18th pick. Last year after getting traded to the Eagles at the deadline, he had a decent year, I guess. It wasn't like he went off or anything. But again, he still was solid. He's a really athletic player, and I just think that is like a huge floor for him. His technicalities at times are a little bit of an issue for me. There's just some plays where he gets kind of screwed up because he is a guy that likes getting creative in terms of what he's going to do at the going out of tackle. But I think if he had a little bit more defined or grounded in his overall toolbox, it's making it a lot easier for his plan to kind of go out the way he wants it to. But he's obviously has number one passer potential. They have Travis Gibson. Get out of my face. This guy has not been a productive pass rusher for like his entire career. He is athletic though. That's why he keeps getting on the field. Princey and Nunnyman, kind of an up and down rookie season. He was okay as a run defender. The problem with him was a lot of his rushes got stalled out because his first step really was never a threat. I do think, though, for a guy that has a really good straight arm, I think he can become a little bit more of a well-rounded pass rusher this season. But I need to see a little bit more in preseason to actually think that's going to happen. But he's definitely our third edge rusher there. There's not a ton of depth in this group, but I think there's a lot of questions if Jalen Phillips can actually carry that load. It's not something that I love. I'm gonna give them a B- for their pass rush. That might be even a little bit generous for some people. But I do think the fact you have Jalen Phillips, Derek Brown, Tershawn Wharton in the same D line, it is a legitimate group there. It's just the fact their depth isn't great, and I think it's a little bit of we'll give it a C+. I think it's asking a lot to see this pass rush be consistent. That's what I'm going to say there. All right, that's all I have at the pass rush there. Now let's get into the secondary. All right, guys, now diving into this secondary for the Panthers. It's a group that I think overall is very underrated just from the overall playmaking we saw from them last year. Same time, though, there are some valid concerns that I think people do have for this group. Obviously, their top two corners are phenomenal. We'll start with Mike Jackson, who had a career year last year after being a backup in Buffalo or a fringe starter at times. Why did I say freaking Buffalo? Oh, my God. Why did I say that? Anyways, it's a different dude. Mike Jackson, he honestly was very under the radar. He wasn't bad in 2024. The biggest issue with him was the fact that in man coverage, he just wasn't dependably being able to blanket receivers the way he was able to last year. Just the biggest noticeable thing I saw on tape. And obviously the 4 picks and the pick 6 were another big thing with him too. And he was much more comfortable in deeper zones where he had to kind of anticipate certain routes. That was really the biggest difference between 24 and 25. Obviously with the Seahawks, he had some starting potential at times, and he obviously took a backup role in 2023. He's not the fastest corner in the world, which makes it very crucial that he's able to anticipate certain routes. Still, at the same time, the way he was able to blanket guys last year is just it was at an elite level, which again set up everything else he did. So he again coming off a crazy good year. Who really knows what we could see this year? On the other side, obviously J.C. Horn, he's their number one cornerback. He's a hard guy to really talk about just because of the fact that he is not a guy who's really thrown at really that much at all. He obviously really through the first 3 years of his career really couldn't stay healthy to save his life. Past years he's been relatively healthy. I'll put it like that. He's at this point in his career, he's kind of just a man corner. I don't even know the way to put it, guys. He's effective in zone, but I think in a lot of situations you just want him one-on-one against the other receiver, and that's kind of all it's going to be. And for a guy that is so talented, and again, the separation per route is so low, it's kind of like you're going to have to figure that out with that. But last year, or 2024, he definitely got beat a lot more than last year, so again, kind of a step up in terms of that. But Jason Horn's just, again, he's a difficult guy to look at because he's not, again, the most versatile guy, and at the same time, he's so good, too, at the same time. It's a hard thing to talk about. Then you have Joe Smith-Wade, who I think I'm higher on than a lot of other people. Again, the biggest thing for with him is that his range isn't really that great, and he's also just not that athletic. But he has elite instincts there, and while he's not, again, a true impactor against the run, he makes a lot of unnoticeable plays. And at the same time, you look at him in coverage, he's just so against these receivers, making it hard for them to cut on the inside, which makes him really mistime the routes. And just that ability and kind of understanding leverage is a huge reason for his success. Joe Smith is a really good player, in my opinion, though. Caleb Evans, he's okay. Obviously, he's had his troubles there in Carolina, or not Carolina, in Minnesota. Since coming to Carolina, he hasn't really played a ton. He's really a special teamer at the end of the day, and he hasn't really proved himself to be a reliable corner that won't get beat every play. Robert Rochelle, former Ram, he's kind of just there. Corey Thornton is a physical player, but he really doesn't have much actual cover skills. Devontae Smith, is this his brother? UDFA at Notre Dame. They got Will Lee. This is a dude I like at A&M. I think it's gonna be hard for him to play as a rookie. Just simply put, with him being 6'1", 189, not bad height and weight by any means, but his hip fluidity isn't really there right now. And what I saw from the Bills game, really wasn't getting off the line well enough in terms of, again, out of his break there. At the same time, though, he is a guy that I think can very easily become a very physical and, again, tone setter for this defense. I really like him in the slot, though. We'll see what they do with him because he's an absolute dog. It's just the fact that he's a little bit slow right now. It's gonna hard for him to have success if that's going to be the case. For this quarterback room, you obviously have a really good top two. It's just, is Mike Jackson really that good? I'm going to give him a B+, though. I think it's one of the more underrated parts of any team in football. I can't quite give it an A tier, though, because I can't. I'm not one to say that J.C. Horn's truly like a top 5 bona fide corner. Again, that might be. It's just I'm a little hesitant with him, even though he's obviously that good. And Mike Jackson, again, it's like I don't think he's gonna be that good again this year. And Justin Wade's good, and then the depth is it's unproven. So I'm gonna say a B+. Obviously, they can say, oh, what the hell? It's an A tier group. Go ahead and say that. But for me, I'm gonna stick it in a B+, especially with the injury history of J.C. Horn. All right. Secondary, let me go to my bad. Safety. Trayvon Moehrig is by far their best safety. It's not really even that close. He had some coverage issues in 2024, especially in terms of playing too high. He really didn't anticipate that well. He was much better over the middle of the field last year, though. Broke up a lot more passes, and against the run was just as effective. It's just a question of, can he find that balance of when to jump a route and when not to, because he does have the length to do it. It's just there's at times where I think he gets a little bit too hesitant, and he's not a guy that can really recover out of that. Then there were Kai Wheatley behind him at Penn State. He was a very smart player for them. He put their defense, especially in base sets, in a lot of good situations. It's just the presence of him not being the fastest guy, nor really being capable in man coverage at this point, that's going to kind of prevent him from being in the field. But like I said, he had a really solid game last week, especially in terms of making tackles in the open field. Nick Scott, he is a very, very good, honestly, I'd just say ball hawk. He only has, 5 picks in his career. He's a guy that does an exceptional job at being able to close out on passes underneath. And just he reads the field so well. Obviously, 111 tackles last year was basically because I'm not gonna lie, guys. They put him in man a lot, and he really wasn't really that successful. For me, he's just a guy just overall in coverage. He's a little bit hesitant. I wouldn't say hesitant at times. He's just a little slow at times, and until that really again kind of changes, it's hard to see me like really thinking he's gonna be dependent on coverage. But there's a lot of trade-offs you see with him. But he has significantly gotten better tackling. And then you also have Lathan Ransom here. This guy that I liked coming out of Ohio State. He didn't have quite a great year last year. There were definitely a lot of games where he kind of got exposed, especially towards the boundary. But he's a guy that's really good at attacking runners downhill, especially when they have the momentum. And I think that kind of like tone-setting sort of stoppage there is going to be huge for this defense this year. For me, the safety room, I'll give them a B-. You could argue it's a C+, but I do like the depth there. So it's not the... Yeah, we'll say a B-. It's not that bad. We'll say 21 points there. If we add that up for this defense, that's going to be 21 points plus 16 plus 24, 18 and 21. That's going to be 100 points for this defense. That is going to put them in the C+ tier, which is where they belong. This is a pretty solid defense. It's just the fact of how good can they, how much of a guy like, are they going to rely on a guy like Jalen Phillips for this pass rush? That's my biggest question there. But overall, there's not too much going on here. Let's get to some other things before the overall grade gets computed. All right, guys, now we're going to dive into the special teams unit before we wrap this thing up. You look at what the Panthers were able to do last year. There were a lot of games where this was actually a difference maker for them. Ryan Fitzgerald kind of had an inconsistent rookie season. While he was not good from deep, I think the biggest problem was that there were certain extra points where he just simply whiffed on. 27-30, again, like, that's not awesome. Kind of an inconsistent year, but he's definitely a guy that still think has the leg to kind of improve that. You have Sam Martin. He's a vet punter now. What is he, 36? He honestly had one of his better years in a minute now. Obviously, for the past couple of years, 3 years in Buffalo, overall not amazing numbers. I think, though, in terms of accuracy, last year he definitely was better, so there's definitely something to talk about there. But, yeah, Sam Martin's a solid punter. Trevor Etienne, I think he's probably one of the more reliable returners in football. Is he like an elite guy? Maybe not, but he's still pretty damn good. J.J. Jensen's been their long snapper for a minute as well. For me, the special teams is a positive for them, so I'm going to say B. That's going to be a... Again, obviously the kicking situation is a little bit wonky, but I still think overall it's a net positive. 8 points there. Okay, the depth. Quarterback depth. Again, Andy Dalton's gone. Is he even on the team? Oh, he's on the Eagles. What the hell? I'm going to honestly say a B-. I like what's going on here. Screw it. We'll say a B. Running back depth, honestly, probably a B too. Well, again, there's not a lot of proven guys. I wouldn't say proven. There's not a lot of, like, consistency here. Every single one of these guys is capable of, playing. There you go. Receiver depth, honestly, I'll probably say like a C plus, C. Yeah, I'll probably say a C. It's honestly not even that bad. Like, David Moore's a guy that I think can go out there and make a play. John Mechie can definitely make a play. He started last year. And Jimmy Horn, again, despite his struggles last year, is a capable player. Obviously, again, it's not like, again, any of these guys are really that good, but they're at least capable. So, I'll say overall, so far, we're probably at a B minus. Tight end, I don't really care about. To be honest with you guys, O-line, I really like their depth. I'll probably say it's like an A. So, again, it's probably one of the deeper O-lines we're going to see in a while. They really beat this group up. Obviously, Monroe Freeland is the main reason for that. Again, the injuries to Kevin Kwanu and Taylor Moton, that's definitely an uncertainty. But for me, offensively, I'll probably say they have a B-plus depth. There's really no position that I'm really concerned about. Again, other receiver kind of just being meh. Defensively, the D-line, I'm going to be honest, is probably around like a B minus. Again, Lee Hunter's the big reason for that. But again, Elijah Garcia, Jarrett Harrison Hunt, they're decent in terms of leverage. But like I said, they're just not very like established. The linebackers probably like C as well. It's not, or C sort of rate, C plus so far. Edge rushing depth, I'll probably say is a C minus. I don't really like it at all. We're probably what at? No, I'll say a C. That might be generous. Well, I'm going to say a C minus. What happened to DJ Johnson? I know this is going like complete tangent, but he was a third round pick for them a couple years ago. My God. Anyways, though, we'll probably say defensively so far we're at a C plus. Yeah. Secondary, I like a lot. Overall, we're probably going to say is a B minus. I think if we just took the net there, that's probably like a C plus, and we said what a B plus. So I'll honestly give this team a B. Defensively, it's a little bit more sketchy, but I think this is definitely one of the stronger teams in terms of depth overall in the league because there's really no position. I'm like, crap, if that guy gets injured, they're cooked. Other than like edge rusher, but that's their fault. Identity. All right, defensively, I kind of went through it. Obviously, Mike Jackson coming off a career year. J.C. Horn's an elite corner in a lot of ways. It's just the fact that I don't really. He's not a guy I wanted to depend my defense on. But again, the fact that they're really depending on a guy in Mike Jackson who's coming off a career year, yes, but like, is he really going to do that again? And then two very injury-prone Jalen Phillips and J.C. Horn. Like, again, that's just not something I want to really deal with. The run defense should be better, but at the same time, it really hasn't even been, like, okay. I mean, like, last year, I guess it wasn't. Run D 2025. This is just AI. I mean, I guess, but, like, it still wasn't, it wasn't awesome. Obviously, again, it's kind of weird that they have a guy like, Derek Brown, and they're still not great. But it's just kind of like how things go because they rely so much on him. But that's what you have there. Offensively, it's like, can Bryce Young be consistent? Because I think as much as people talk about him being booster seat Bryce, there are times where he elevates this offense, like, tremendously. Is it rare and few and far between? Absolutely. But does it happen? Yes. That's a big ask for him to do consistently, though. And the rest of the skill position group really isn't that good. Other than Tet McMillan, it's like, what are we going to do? And then Jonathan Brooks could really do something. He's an X factor. But it's a lot of injury dependency, and it's not something that I really love for them. I'm going to say they're going to get a C minus for their identity. You could argue to D plus. I do think, though, Dave Canales is a capable head coach in a lot of ways. I think he's proved to be a competent coach because, I mean, things could have went way south back in 2024. Obviously, they 3-10, whatever, through the first 13 games. But still, I think he's a capable enough head coach to figure this out. But, again, if we added this up, I think, what is it, 200? With that, yeah, 200 plus 8 plus 36 plus 20. That's going to give them 264 points for the roster, and trust me, that isn't great by any means. It's not like this, I don't love this roster really in a lot of ways, but at the same time, this is a team that does not really have any particularly huge needs other than obviously the tight end position being an uncertainty. For me, though, I think this is a team that can, while they might not have a better record than last year, which, again, it's not like they have a high bar either. I think this is a team that could definitely weather some of the storms that they will be facing this year, which, again, is a testament to Dave Canales can do as a head coach. But that is all I have for the Panthers here. Hopefully they win a playoff game this year, at least if it's not against the Rams. But that's all I have for you guys here. You guys will be seeing the last team in the power rankings, or not the power rankings, the roster grades tomorrow. But, yeah, y'all know what's coming.
Javonte Williams takes the handoff, and Williams, nice second effort, still going. Javonte Williams carrying defenders. A 31-yard run. Boy, that's going to create a lot of doubt for the Ravens on their side of the ball defensively, because in the second half of the ball game against the Detroit Lions,